Cat Floss, continuing the third video about the heinous bill that's about to be passed in our Parliament called the Treaty Principles Bill. I have done a video on Treaty Principle 1 and Treaty Principle 2, and this is today to talk about the Treaty Principles 3. This bill, I'd just like to give out a warning to all the New Zealand Pākehā people, or the people that were stolen from their nations 150 years ago, put on white slave ships and brought to New Zealand to create the Commonwealth. I'd just like to say to you that we are protected by the Bill of Rights 1688, and it is this Bill of Rights 1688 which was fought for hundreds of years and finally attained with the glorious revolution in the War of Roses. This Bill of Rights 1688, which encompasses our free speech law, which dates all the way back to the time of Jesus, is seriously under threat, and they're going to try and wipe it out right here in New Zealand. There's a holy war, a huge holy war going on right here in New Zealand. There's a lot of people involved, and this has been planned for hundreds of years. Now, this last piece of the bill is to do with the free speech, and anyway, I'll just get right into it. There's 17 days left to put in your advice about what you would want them to do. Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you, that there's a huge push by New Zealand Maori running around all over the country, having protests and standing up in the Parliament and doing their silly old hakas and all that in the Parliament, telling people to be against the bill. And this is a psychological weapon to make the English people, the white people of New Zealand, who number in the numbers of around about 3 million, as opposed to the 200,000 New Zealand Maori. No offence to the New Zealand Maori, 99.9% of them don't really know what's going on themselves, so it's no good blaming them. But their leaders know exactly what's going on, and they've come up with this. I mean, it's quite pathetic, really. They've come up with this idea that if they tell everybody not to vote against the Treaty Principles Bill because they'll lose all their Maori rights and all their special rights, they think that this will have a psychological effect on the 3 million Anglo-Saxon people of New Zealand and cause them to vote in favour of the bill and to put in applications into the bill, praising the bill, calling for the bill to be passed. And it's all a psychological trick to trick you once again, just like they tricked the Pākehā people, the Anglo-Saxon people, to cede all of their territories in 1838 to go under the Crown, only to have all their lands confiscated from them. Well, they're at it again, and now they're trying to get out of this Bill of Rights 1688, which has got all your freedom of speech and all your property protections in it. So this bill, we do not want this bill to pass. We absolutely do not want this bill to pass. It's great it's going to be a celebration for the treaty settlements if this bill passed, and it's going to be the end of any Anglo-Saxon right to self-govern themselves within the country of New Zealand or Australia or England, Scotland, Ireland or Canada. We're all involved with this. Now, there's 17 days left, and we can go to read the bill, and you'll see on read the bill, It goes to the principle, part 2, the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. Now, I've already done part 1 and part 2, so we're going to be looking at principle 3. Now, this is the original bill here, principle 1, principle 2, principle 3. The fact of the matter is that treaty principles were never ever passed into law, and every single piece of legislation that mentions a treaty principle is going to have those words removed, because treaty principles were never passed in law. Now, if you sign up to this document, it's going to allow the phrase treaty principles to be passed into law, and then all those treaty settlements and all those laws, the resource consent, all those laws that have got treaty principles in it are going to be it's almost like a proclamation to consolidate and approve and pass all of those laws. So you must not do that. Now, this law here, I'll put this is a borrow from one of the websites here, and what it's just a bit easier to see than that other one there, but it's basically the same. Everyone is equal before the law. Well, that is actually not true. We are not all equal before the law. Many of us are privy to the Treaty of Waitangi, the 1838 provisional bill, which was the cessation of the Anglo-Saxon people that were not British in New Zealand, who owned almost the entire country outright. And they agreed to cede to the Crown on the condition that they would be allowed to govern themselves under a Protestant religion and be able to be protected by the British government of all of our lands from forfeiture. Everyone is entitled, without discrimination, to the equal protection and equal benefit of the law and the equal enjoyment of the same fundamental human rights. Now, what I'm going to be saying to you is, under the Seventh Supremacy Law of the 1688 Bill of Rights, in an actual fact, we are not all equal under the law. 2.5 or 3 million immigrants have been imported into our countries of New Zealand, Scotland, Ireland, and Australia. And quite frankly, under the supremacy laws, they're not allowed to govern in our parliaments. Now, why is a Muslim who is allegiant to the Quran and a Jewish person who is allegiant to the Torah, why can they not govern in our parliament? Because that we are fundamentally repugnant to each other. Their laws forbid free speech. They hold the blasphemy laws. They forbid any speech that will be considered as an insult to them. And because of that, but we have our free speech that says we're allowed to say anything we like, as long as we're not using violent speech. Now, under our supremacy law, it does actually say in there, I do declare that no foreign prince, no foreign person, prelate, state, or potentate has or ought to have any jurisdiction, power, superiority, preeminence, or authority, ecclesiastical or spiritual, within this realm, so help me God. Now, they are not allowed to govern over us, and it is this law that they are determined to get rid of, and they're trying to get rid of it through the treaty, through this principle number 3, that we are all equal. Now, they can't just remove our Bill of Rights 1688. What they have to do is they're transferring the trust into a new set of rights. What they've come up with is the equal, and this is what this Principle 3 is all about. It's about bringing in the United Nations and the New World Order fundamental human rights, which come under the Noahide laws and the One World religion. Now, the fundamental human rights comes under here, which comes through the 1990 Bill of Rights, okay? And if you look in here, there's a law in here, number 131, which is called inciting racial disharmony. Now, you'll see here that it says no prosecution without the Attorney General's consent. What they're wanting, there are bills sitting in Parliament waiting to be put up to the Select Committee that want to bypass this rule here that they can only prosecute through the Attorney General, and they want to be able to go directly to the court through this Human Rights Act. Now, this Human Rights Act is to do with the International Covenant of Political Rights for all refugees and all people that come into our country that are not Protestant. And so they come under different laws, and we are Protestant under Protestant law. So they've brought in this law for inciting racial disharmony. And this is an attack on our free speech law. And currently, the law stood at that it is an offence for every person commits an offence and is liable to conviction for imprisonment of 3 months or to a fine not exceeding $7,000 with intent to incite hostility or ill will against or bring in contempt or ridicule any group of persons in New Zealand. Now, this is the hate speech laws in the UK, the hate speech laws in Australia, on the ground of colour, race, or ethnic or national origins of that group of person. Now, they are also seeking to add religion to this here as a protected, that you're not allowed to speak against any of the religions. Now, it's not that we want to speak against any of the religions, but we Protestants are protected by the Protestant law of no cruel and unusual punishments, the right to free speech, and no foreigners may govern over us. Whereas their laws say that we don't have the right to free speech, and we don't have the right to stop. So what it is that if we speak against somebody using a quote from the Quran to govern over us, that's got a cruel punishment within it, our Bill of Rights 1688 would block that. If they use the Torah and a cruel punishment in the Torah to want to prosecute us for speaking against that law that seeks to damage our bodies that is within the Torah, we are allowed to do that under free speech. In the Torah, we're not allowed to do that. So that would be, if we spoke against them using those laws to prosecute us, that would be inciting racial disharmony, and it would be called anti-Semitic or anti-Islamic. And they're trying to make that a law within our countries. And that is going to be done through this treaty principle here, the equal enjoyment of the same fundamental human rights. Now, these human rights, Protestants and people of the Treaty of Waitangi do not come into this law. We're in different laws. So they've already managed to make it a criminal offence for speaking, but it actually does not. Now, this law here had never been prosecuted in a court of law in New Zealand. This Human Rights Act, if this Treaty Principles Bill, Principle number 3, is passed, there's nothing, this Human Rights Act is created and administered and updated and amended over at the United Nations. It is not done in New Zealand. It's not even a New Zealand law. And so there is nothing to stop them amending this law as they have done continuously to add further cruel punishments for speaking against people if it insults them. Now, the heinous part of this, we don't mind that it says if it's threatening, you're not allowed to use threatening speech. If it's abusive means words that are violent words towards people. That is abusive. But the problem is this one here, insulting. Now that is basically bringing in the Noahide laws, that it is against the Torah and against the Quran for you to insult their blasphemy laws. And so when you insult them, this insulting law is not defined, and it's the insulting law that is the elephant in the room. Now, people, it's because it says here, it does not say threatening, abusive, and insulting, which would mean that you would need to threaten them, abuse them, and insult them in one rant. That would be the crime. No, this one here uses or insulting, which means they don't have to be threatening to you or abusive to you. It's only what you say that insults them can cause you to be prosecuted and get 3 months in prison, where you're going to be beaten, justice may possibly be beaten, or a $7,000 fine. Now, this law here, remember, this all comes under the equal enjoyment of the same fundamental human rights, and just remembering that we come under the 1688, the Bill of Rights. We're under the free speech laws here, free speech, and we're also under no cruel and unusual punishments to be inflicted. Right? Now, this one is talking about these laws here, and this is tied up in connection with this law, which it's already getting worse. Now, this, they're very sneaky. This here is not an act that is really created within New Zealand, but they did create an act within New Zealand. And these two acts here are in harmony together. To prosecute this insulting law, they use this one, which is the Films, Videos, and Publications Classification Act, which if you use Facebook or if you use YouTube, that is considered to come under these two sets of laws. But it even gets worse. Every person that commits an offence against this act who does not have any, who does act mentioned in section 23, knowing or having reasonable cause to believe that the publication is objectionable, such person is liable to 14 years in prison and $200,000 in payment. Now, this under section, I won't do section 1, 2, 3, but you can go and look at it. Now you will look here and you will see that this act, this act is actually administered by the Department of Internal Affairs. Now the Department of Internal Affairs deals with all foreign laws, foreign passports, immigration, refugees, all of that. Well, that's who administers this law here. And so we have to be careful because our Bill of Rights, New Zealand, this one here is administered by, it doesn't say, but this is, you'll notice that this is not an act. All right, this is actually a constitutional law. It's called the Bill of Rights, 1688, and it comes out of the laws of England. And this here, the New Zealand Maori are trying to sever this from us as we speak and put us back under Maori rule. And they're going to do that through this principle here. So we've got to be very, very careful what we're doing. Now, further, so that's those two laws that we bring together. The films, videos that has got 14 years in prison, $200,000 fine, which is administered under the Department of Internal Affairs. So this is no small thing that they're talking about, and the racial disharmony. Now, we're going to be talking about the Te Pāti Maori, okay? Now, Te Pāti Maori went to the court, and there was a man in the South Island who was a mentally handicapped man, a mentally ill man, and somebody got a hold. Well, you know, it's just interesting to me that I'm talking about that there is a huge amount of legal engineering occurring within New Zealand and England and Australia. And I'm believing that they are sending people through the courts to engineer laws and engineer their nefarious purposes. Now, there are people in the court that are with us and people in the court that are against us. There are people in the parliament with us and people that are against us. Now, this is Debbie Packer and this is Raurewi Waitete. We all know about them, and she's white and he's white. Both of them, we're not allowed to say much because I'll end up in the prison for 14 years with the 200,000. Well, the handicapped man in the South Island came out, and some sneaky, nefarious person who belonged to one of these common law groups or something had encouraged him to make a video against the New Zealand Maori and got him to use violent language, such as, using knives and eliminating people and lots of very, very bad things. He was a mentally ill man, and these two here went to prosecute him. And when the police refused to prosecute him, they went to the Police Complaints Authority and they forced this case to be prosecuted. Now, why did they need this case to be prosecuted? Well, they needed it to be prosecuted so that they could eventually arrive at this place of the equal enjoyment of the fundamental rights, which were those laws that I have just shown to you, right? And what they needed was a case that had gone through the court, that had gone through the appeals court, that had been prosecuted, and had a penalty had been given, because neither of these laws had previously been able to gain any type of prosecution, all right? And so there's also a Maori man who's got tattoos all over his faces, who also he was mentally ill as well, and he made threatening videos against Queen Elizabeth. To my understanding, he was not prosecuted, but they did try to prosecute him. So they want these laws because they need the international laws against free speech, and they need the international laws to remove our Bill of Rights 1688, and we need to guard it with our lives. Now, this case here that went up, you can see, I'm not going to tell you exactly all of the case, but it was done by Judge Ingram. The man ended up getting home detention. However, I have heard that this man is currently in the prison for 2.5 years, a mentally ill man, a very, very sick man, and I have heard that but cannot confirm that he has been put in the prison for 2 years. And he was put in, here you are at 45 years of age before the court for sentencing for the very first time in your life. You are facing charges of making an objectionable publication, and then secondly, a charge of publishing or distributing material which is threatening or insulting, contrary to the provisions of S131 of the Human Rights Act. So they used both of these acts here. This one here, which is an act in New Zealand law, which was attached, this one here, which was the act in New Zealand law under the Department of Internal Affairs, and this one here, which is Section 131, which is not actually part of New Zealand laws. In order for them to get this one used, it needs to be used together with this publications over here, and this is what they wish to circumvent. They wish by this treaty principles to be able to go directly to the court and prosecute anyone they want for speaking against them. And so that's going to be, this is all these hate speech laws. Now, eventually, the judge did give him home detention because of his mental illness. He got given, now they needed the two sentences, whether the judge was in on it or whether he was not. I'm calling that this is a case of legal engineering perpetuated by groups of people to get those world religions and one world religion laws and blasphemy laws instituted into our Commonwealth countries. So he gave him two sentences. The first on, he said, he gave him, I'll just read it, on the charge laid. So they needed the two sentences to come together in unison to get what it is that they want. So on the charge laid under the films and videos, which carried a maximum of 14 years imprisonment, because it was a first offence, they gave him 12 months home detention. But I believe, but with no evidence, that it may have been overturned through pressure from these high-pressure groups. It may well have been overturned, and he may be sitting in the prison as we speak. Somebody can inform me of that. And then, so that was given under the films and videos. And then the next one was 300 hours community service on the charge laid under the provisions of the Human Rights Act that has a maximum of 3 months in prison. That was in the, did he say the 131? I think it was said at the top there. So that for that one in the Human Rights Act, which had a 3 months imprisonment. Instead, he got 300 hours community service. Now, he's the first of his kind, a man that was A, mentally ill, and a man that was B, never committed a criminal offence before in his entire life, who was manipulated by these common law people. And I believe that he read from a script. It was not his own words, and the judge said he did not believe it to be his own words, right? And so now that this charge has been perpetuated, this has given them cause to bring in the equal enjoyment of the same fundamental human rights, where they want to make this a principle and they want to make this a law so that it's not administered by the Foreign Affairs Department, so that they don't have to go through the Attorney General, so that they can they can bypass everything and go directly to jail, go directly to putting you in the jail if you insult them. Now, Bill of Rights, the case. Now, presently, there's a holy man, I believe. I'll talk about the holy man later, but they've got a holy man in the courts, and whether he knows it or not, he's signing off on all sorts of documents which may well be perpetuating the Treaty Principles 3 to be passed into law. And so I'll just, I don't have any proof, so I can't speak of that. I will speak of, I wanted to speak about the Burkes, which are, just a minute, so that is that one. And sorry, I've just got a bit caught up here. So this is why we would not want you to be not only do we we can't tell you which way to vote, but I'm saying to you that if you do vote on that is what you're voting for. Now, I've lost my Burkes, have I? Yep, I've lost my Burkes. I'll go back to the Burkes just a minute. Oh, here they are. So these people here are over in Ireland, and this is Enoch Burke. And Enoch Burke, I believe, over in Ireland and over in England, they are also engineering the courts, putting through court cases so that these hate speech laws can be perpetuated. And Enoch Burke was a teacher in a school, and he spoke, his leaders in his school ordered Enoch Burke to address students that were female, address them as male, and males in the school to address the males as she's, and for those that wish to be called theys or thems, they ordered him to do that. And Enoch had refused to do that, and he subsequently lost his job with pay. But he was a clever man. He's never committed a crime in his life. He said no. He knew that according to the I'll just check my time here. He knew that according to the laws of state-employed peoples, that if you don't attend your job through so many days, I think it's 3 days, if you don't attend your job, you will lose your job for being absent from that job. It comes under the vacancies laws or something, and they're allowed to fire you immediately. So Enoch Burke went to his job every single day and sat at the school, and so the school had him arrested several times until finally the judge ordered and said to him, if you don't stop going to the school, we're going to put you in the prison. But Enoch continued to go, so he went to the school, and then he ended up, he's been in the prison for more than 500 days. He's currently been let out of prison, but unfortunately they have put his father in the prison for speaking. Now, I'm not quite sure what his father did, but and he is under order that he will be charged so many £1,000 per day if he goes and stands at the school. So this is a lovely family, and I believe that their ancestry is German. And I just want to let them know that my ancestry is German, and my people were stolen from Germany, put on the St. Pauli, and sent to New Zealand with the promise of the protections of the Bill of Rights 1688, and that my family would be subjects under Almighty God, the Protestant law, for all times to come. And unfortunately, I've been in the courts too, and I have been basically informed that our people were tricked at a later time to become citizens of New Zealand. And apparently, when we all became citizens of the country, apparently they say that we lost our subject status. And they say that when we lost our subject status, we lost our right to free speech and our right to not be governed over by foreigners and our right not to have cruel and unusual punishments. So all of this is a huge holy battle that's being brought in you can see the capital punishments that they've got here in the Judaism, which includes stoning, burning, ingesting molten lead, strangling, beheading, and all these other kinds of cruel and unusual punishments. Now, many of these punishments come under the speech laws, that it is a crime to speak against any of for us to speak against their religious laws is a crime punishable by very cruel punishments, burning and all of these things. And currently they call that anti-Semitic. They've made it a prosecutable offence, which they're trying to bring in our countries with the 3 months of prison, or as we see there, the 14 years of prison, and all of those things. However, this is only what they've put in place to replace the cruel punishments for now. For now, when we're all dead and gone, and our Bill of Rights 1688 has been severed from all of us forever. Once that is done, there's nothing to stop them bringing back those cruel punishments and enforcing them on all of our children's children. So we must vehemently protect our Bill of Rights 1688, which it does actually say there that it is the glorious instrument of delivering this kingdom from popery and arbitrary power. And it says that we are protected by Almighty God. That's what we're protected by. We're protected by Almighty God, which is a Protestant. We are protected by a Protestant God, and that Protestant God was sent out into all the Commonwealth countries. And right here in New Zealand, God is under attack. It is, and there is I'm not going to mention names, but the person who I'm talking about, you know who you are. There's a holy man in our courts who was in our courts at the time of the Parliament Bill, which incorporated us all, and which has given themselves all sorts of rights and privileges and have severed the Bill of Rights 1688, and they've given it to themselves in the Parliament. They said the Parliament is sovereign, but the people are not sovereign in themselves. So they've stolen our, they've severed the 1688 Bill of Rights from us, from our sovereign right. They've slided it over to the parliamentary privileges and giving it to themselves through their knighthoods, their damehoods, their order of merits, their war medals. They've slided it over and given it to themselves, but they've removed it from us Protestants. And that same holy man, I believe, is in the court or about to be in the court as we speak. And I believe, and I may well be wrong, my apologies if I'm wrong, but I believe that that person is bringing in this law and bringing in the film and publication. I believe that they've got a holy man taking this through the courts right now as we speak, and I believe that that holy man will be in the court at the same time as this principal bill will be going through. So, as I've said to you, the principal bill has got 17 days left to go. What we need you to do is it's going to be up to you. But as for me, I'll be putting in a big no thank you, and I'll be saying that I'll be bringing in my Bill of Rights 1688, my right to free speech, and I will tell you that I personally am opposed to the fundamental human rights being used as a replacement to our Bill of Rights 1688 Protestant law. If you're a Protestant, now who is a Protestant? Anybody who is not Jewish is a Protestant. Everybody who is not Islamic is a Protestant. Everybody who is not Catholic is a Protestant. Everybody who was not born to those religions is a Protestant. All Christians are Protestants and have to be protected from the other biblical texts that seek to eliminate us, destroy us, remove our free speech, and remove our right to... What they're really after is the removal of our right to self-govern. That's what they don't want, our right to self-govern. So I'm going to be saying I'm opposed to Principle 3 because I wish to protect my right to free speech under the Bill of Rights 1688, and I do not want to be subjected to United Nations foreign laws that seek to imprison me for insulting any one of those people that comes under their protected persons categories. Because I'm telling you something, you're all going to be in prison. If you're in England, as we speak, they've put Tommy Robertson into the prison for speaking, and we're going to be seeing thousands and thousands of people who are going to be going to prison. And let me tell you something, some of them are talking about backdating this law, because this section, these two laws were created in 1993. And nobody knew about them until they were first prosecuted in the late 2000s, around about 2010 or 2015. They began prosecuting this. In an actual fact, they may well go through every social media post dating back to 1993 and put you all in the prison. That's how dangerous. Now, I'm only just Kate Floss, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm saying that this video is all my own opinion and my own take on the treaty principles bill. And so that's the end of my video today about the I've lost my my speaking voice. All right, so this today was predominantly about the principles 3, that the equal enjoyment of the same fundamental human rights. I am going to put up in the links my video on principle 1, and then I'm going to put up my video on principle 2, and this is my video on principle 4, and I hope that I also will be having for you a recap. So after you've watched all 3, I'll have a very watered down recap on all 3 of them in more simpler terms, so that everybody can comprehend the reality of what this means if this bill gets passed, and to please be aware that there is a cyber activity going on where all the Maoris are pretending to run around and tell you not to vote for it because the Maoris are going to lose all of their rights, which is it's a cyber op activity. It's the age old. I mean, it's pathetic that they've used it. Do they think we're that stupid? That, you know, we tell our kids what one do you want? Do you want the red lollipop or the blue lollipop? And the blue lollipop is full of vegetables, and the red lollipop is full of sugars and candy. And we want the child to choose the blue lollipop, but instead we'll tell them that we want them to choose the red lollipop, knowing that immediately we say that they will choose the blue. And that is what is going on. They want us to choose the Labour's red lollipop. So they're telling us that they hate the red lollipop, and they're telling us that they want us to choose the blue lollipop. And they are counting on us Pākehā people being stupid and thinking, oh, the Maoris don't want us to choose that, so we're going to choose it. And in doing so, we're choosing the red lollipop, which is full, absolutely chock-a-block full, with laws that are going to get all of us people in the prison and all of their people into their riches stolen from us, that they stole from us in 1930 when The Hague ordered them to give us back all of our stolen lands. Yeah, the white people's lands I'm talking about. That's Kate Floss signing out for today. Where am I? Try and get a good shot for my good. So that's. I'll leave that. Can I leave that up there? Leave that up there. Where am I going to go? I'm going to go over here. Okay.